the questions, but I'll post the questions.
Yeah, I did look at them.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Okay, hi. I think that it's on live. Yeah. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us this Sabbath morning. This is Eastside SDA Fellowship Adult Sabbath class. We are reading that the Prophets and Kings by E.G. White, and today we are studying the chapter 40, Nebuchadnezzar's dream. We have Michael and Finny, and then Darlene and Sally as panelists. So thank you guys for joining us today, and let's have a word of prayer before starting. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for this beautiful Sabbath morning. Praise your name that you are our God and taking care of us with your love. We have this Sabbath class morning discussion today. Please bless this time and bless the people participating and give us your wisdom. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, just chit chat. How was your week? Sally? Or maybe she's frozen.
How was our week?
Yeah,
Oh,
your week. It
It
was good. Yeah, okay. You are kind of a little bit slow. I think you are
Oh, it was
Wi-Fi.
good, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Good. How about you, Michael?
It was good. Good, little busy, juggling things at work
Yeah,
as always.
Excuse me, Sally? Yeah.
Pardon?
Did you say something?
No, I thought you said something to me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Darlene, how was your week?
It was fine. Tired.
Okay, tired, yeah. Mine was busy week too, so
Yours
I'm
was
glad
super.
that yeah, I'm in the Sabbath. Okay, so jump into the discussions. So we are now in Daniel, and hi, Sharon.
He's saying hi to you. That's good.
Yeah. We are now that studying Daniel, and we are talking about Daniel chapter 2, when Nebuchadnezzar had a very strange dream, but somehow he couldn't remember well. So so basically that Nebuchadnezzar that called all the wise men and you know that those doctors or scholars or whatever nationwide, and called them and asked that okay, I had a strange dream, tell me what that means. And those scholars and wise men, doctors said that sure, I'm happy to do that. We are happy to do that. Tell me your dream. And then Nebuchadnezzar said that you need to tell me the dream and then interpret that. And if you cannot do that, there's only one choice, one option. That means that you all dead, right? And so that scholars and the doctor said that king, that what you are asking is cannot be done by human. You know, that's impossible. So please tell me your dream. And king is upset and ordered every wise man should be killed. Okay, so first question: what kind of king do you think Nebuchadnezzar was? How reasonable was his request and his reaction to wise man's response? Okay, anybody?
I had like a hard time kind of figuring exactly what kind of king he was, but I think his request was very clever. You know,
Clever.
I mean,
In what sense?
Clever. I mean, clever in the sense that clever in the sense that, you know, because it had said that, you know, up until that time he would, you know, take the advice of these wise men, you know, at their word, you know, but like he came to this point where it's like, I need like some verification of what they're telling me, you know, of
Mhm.
their ability. And so he kind of created, I mean, it was very drastic, you know,
Mhm.
but for the consequence. But you know, I think it was clever in the sense that he was able to kind of call him out on it, you know, and if it's really
Mm.
really true or not of what they're giving him in terms of their advice and interpretation. So
Mm. Mm. So you are saying you think he was wise because he was seeking that advice from the wise man?
well, I think he was not, maybe not, that's not what I'm trying to say. I think more that he the seriousness of the dream, it shook him maybe enough to like, hey, I have to like ferret out if these guys are lying to me. You know, the advice that they're giving to me is good advice or not, you know. So
Oh,
I'll say you have to not only interpret my dream, because anyone can make an interpretation of a dream, whether it's
okay,
true or not is the
okay.
question. But
Uh-huh.
because he's saying, hey, you have to not only interpret my dream, but tell me what my dream is first, you
Okay,
know, then he
I
can
see.
use that as basically a litmus test of their truth.
Uh,
I was like, oh,
Interesting,
and I said, oh,
interesting. Because there was a there's this is a there was a fuzzy area in his request, which is the Bible clearly didn't say that if he remembered his dream or not. So there could be the chance that he remembered, but still asking wise man that, do you tell me what I dreamed? You know?
yeah, I that resonates a lot with me because sometimes I have dreams and I'm like, oh, I only kind of remember it, but it's vaguely familiar. And
Yeah,
it's not until a week later that I have
right,
some other side experience that
right,
triggers the memory, like, oh yeah, that's what my dream was about.
right,
You know,
right,
so
right,
you
right,
kind of just have these fragments of it, but it was enough to probably leave him with
right,
this feeling that something was urgent or wrong or, you know,
right,
or big.
right,
So I think that's what he was looking for, is to be told what his dream was that he would
right.
remember.
Well, right. Definitely that he wanted to get the clarification, right? Because I think that one thing for clear is he was so bothered. He was so annoyed. He was so frustrated because he couldn't, you know, he couldn't clearly probably remember and didn't understand, of course. But he had a feeling in his heart that it was a kind of a very bothering dream, you know. Okay, Darlene or Sally, do you
Uh,
have any comments?
I think he was a king who was used to getting everything his way. You
Mm,
know, he said a word and it was done. You know, and
right,
so, and obviously, he had at least some trust in these um sorcerers and astrologers and these so-called wise men,
right,
and that's why he has so many of them. He relied on them, he depended on them
right,
because he didn't know true God.
right.
But was it a reasonable request? I think it was a reasonable request in that, because these men are claiming
Yeah,
to
because of
know,
what they
right?
claim.
They're
Otherwise,
claiming
it's
to know
unreasonable
all
to know
things.
someone else's mind.
Yeah, so it was reasonable for the king to ask of this. And
Well, do you
and I
think it's
think,
yeah?
huh?
Do you think it's reasonable to ask that their lives if they
Well,
couldn't
because he's,
answer?
like I said, he's a king who's used to getting everything his way. I mean, whatever he said, he got it. So and like you said, the dream was such that he was so bothered by it, like he had to know. And
Right.
he didn't really remember the dream either. So he needed to know what the dream was. He needed to know what the meaning of the dream was. So
Right.
I think it was, I mean, it being who he is, for him, it was reasonable to ask of
Right.
such a thing.
Yeah. So, do we have a similar king or a ruler right now?
Do we have one? Is that
Yeah.
what you're saying?
Yeah, in the world. I think that to some extent that in any time period, any era, there is this type of ruler. I think, of course, the ruler or king in a third world country has an entire power, right? Yeah, I mean that North Korea, Kim Jong-un may close. Other rulers may be more restricted by that so-called constitutions or democratic, that the process, so forth. I think that I hope that we have some progress in terms of governing skill. But yeah, so definitely he had, as you guys said, that the decisive power one, right? I mean that because he could order and it will be done. So that's a legal process. Basically, he is a law, and he is a decision maker, and his will be done. Now that the Mesopotamia, do you remember they have advanced, technologies and wisdom, how to count numbers and so forth. So I think that in a sense that they have many. How do you call those wise people collected and gathered from all the regions under his, that empire basically. And also another thing is that this is the second year of his ruling. So this is the very beginning of his reign, and he had this dream, which was pretty bothering because the Bible said, and also EG5 said that he was thinking about what would happen in the future. So that's part of that, I think, context. Okay, so let me go to the second question. How about this one? Daniel and his three friends faced life and death challenge when Nebuchadnezzar announced termination of all the wise men in Babylon. Why were they able to rely on God for rescue and solution with confidence? Have you ever faced a similar challenge in your life, and how did you deal with it?
Well, they trusted God. I mean, that was part of it, and their faith in God.
Right. But
they were
why?
confident.
Right. So they trusted God and they prayed for God's wisdom, right? Because they have no capability to find what's a Nebuchadnezzar's dreams and its meaning by themselves.
Right.
None of humans can do. So they relied on God. I think that they relied on God with confidence, maybe that desperately, of course, but why they could have done that, do you think?
I think the chapter said that they knew their purpose of being there. They were, of course, they were there as captives. And they had no freedom. They were there basically as slaves. They had to do whatever the king said.
Right.
But at the same time, I think because they had such a relationship with God, and God told them, right, that you will be in captivity for 70 years. Was it 70 years? Anyway, during that time, so they knew there was a purpose in God putting them in that place.
Right.
And in that sense, that they were able to rely on God because they knew that God had plans for them.
Right. Thank you for that. Michael, do you have any comment? Your microphone is off. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just reading over the paragraph, and just something that stuck out to me that didn't really catch the first time around.
Right.
Was that they said in times of perplexity and danger, they always turned to him for guidance and protection, and he always proved an ever-present help. So why did they turn to him? Because they had a track record.
Right.
So,
I'm into that.
Yeah. I just didn't see that before. Didn't catch it. Didn't stick out to me.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say the follow-up to that question with where if I've ever had a situation similar to that, yesterday I kept thinking about it and I just couldn't think of it. I'm like, oh, I'll think of something in the morning. And I think the truth is I haven't. I don't think I've truly faced anything quite to that degree, you know. Certainly where like my life is on the line and the life of my colleagues or people around me or whatever. You know. So actually no, I don't think I think it would.
God is always blessing, has been blessing you, so that's good.
Yeah, my life has been
Amen
easier
to
than
that.
that.
Amen to that. That's good news. How about you, Sally? Do you have anything to say?
No. I
Okay.
mean, I've had many blessings in my life, and some I think I deserved, and some I think I didn't. But you know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for you guys' comments, and I think that it's both true that he and three others, they got God's affirmation that constantly, always through their lives, right? The chapter 1 that when they were challenged, actually 3 years training period, at the beginning, they were told you need to eat king's food and drink, and they refused. And luckily their head was still there, not chopped off, right? And they asked that give us that fresh vegetable and water for 10 days. And actually that proved that their claims are correct and that they were blessed. And I'm sure that as those process, they were praying too. So they've been constantly getting affirmation, especially in their captivity as status as a captive slaves. They have nobody yet but God to rely on. And also, as Darlene said, I think that the important thing is they were aware that the God's promise, that God said that go to Babylon and flourish and multiply over there. I'll protect you. And you will be happier over there. And then I'll bring you back to Jerusalem 70 years later. So they were aware of those prophecy by God through Jeremiah, and they are firmly believed in God's plan. So I think that's an important thing. I believe that they felt that there was a reason why they were there, and that there is a certain role they need to play. If that's the case, God will not allow us to be perished. So I think that's a background. Now, the similar challenge in life and death. I don't know that many people have a life and death challenges. I personally, I don't think that I have that kind of a situation even in the mountains. But I had a one time that I had almost a life and death spiritually. So the spiritual life and death moment, and I was rescued by God through prayer. So I just in that sense I experienced that way, and I was thankful for that. So okay, next question. Why did God give this specific dream to him? And what was the core message of the dream? Why did God give this dream to him? So what do you think about this? So so the dream again is that, do you remember that what kind of dream it was, Darlene?
Yeah, he dreamt of a huge statue where the head was made out of gold, and then the shoulder, the chest, was it made out of the silver?
Yeah.
And then next part of it, the legs were made out of brass, and then the feet were made out, the toes were made out of clay and iron.
Right.
And I think, obviously it was a timing too, right? Because he was the king at the time of the most powerful nation. So it was timing. And then I think that God, but at the same time, God could have given such a dream to Daniel or any of his companions to be able to bring it to the king and give him interpretation and give him what is to come. But I think it just giving the dream to the king, who is the most powerful man at that time, made more sense in that he was able to see that there is even greater king, even more powerful king, who actually, has power and control over the entire world, entire lives of everyone, including himself. And so that he was able to at least acknowledge for that moment who the real, true, powerful king is.
Okay, thank you for that. How about you, Michael? Microphone is off.
I think in a similar vein, the kind of core message is that, showing like almost the timeline of history, and then with the, what is it, the stone or rock that was not cut by human hands,
right,
meaning God, coming down and crushing it and destroying it at the end, that essentially here's this magnificent timeline of humanity, but at the end what endures is God, over history. And you've got the rock that comes down, obliterates it all, and it becomes like, and fills all the earth with mountains and everything, and endures. So I think that seems to be the core message to me, is that is essentially God's sovereignty over history of humanity.
I'm into that. Sally?
Oh, that's, yeah. Darling, but yeah, I think he said that God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed.
Right.
And all the other kingdoms below are inferior.
Right.
Yeah.
So you guys agree that this dream was given by God? Yeah. Because we could have any kind of a weird dreams any moment.
I've had a few.
Sometimes hard to interpret, right? Yeah. So yes. So Daniel told the king that this is a dream that God gave it to you when you are wondering what will be coming that after him, or that what his kingdom will be in the future. So is it interesting that the second year of his reign that God gave this dream to him?
But it's not, I think it's not surprising that he was wondering about it, because
Right.
I would imagine that any leader, any king in power
Right.
would think to himself, I
Right.
wonder how long my kingdom, my power, my reign will last.
Exactly.
Am I
Right.
going to be cut off in another 2 years or
Right.
whatever it is? And I think
Right.
I can see him anyone can have this kind of thoughts early on in their
Right.
in their power. Yeah.
So in a sense that don't you think we could say that Daniel and three others were there rightfully at the right timing, as God planned? Imagine that if they are not there, and people who basically train and passed at the training and serving to king already, right? And counted as a wise man, but still trust and believe that the true God. If those people are not there, maybe that God couldn't use the other people to interpret that, or rely on him to seek that solution, right?
I
Do
think
you
all
understand what
other
I'm saying? Yeah.
well, all other like supposedly wise men, they would all been killed.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, God saved those people,
Right, exactly.
despite the fact that they're not followers.
Yeah, and also the God saved that Nebuchadnezzar too, because as Michael said, I think that this dream was given to him to show that, okay, you have no control and your life is limited, and another king will come out to rule. But at the end, God is it's under God's control, right? That and at the end, the God's kingdom, you know, who cover entire earth. That's the last, you know, that you know, the message or event of the dream. So I think that this dream is telling him that you think that you are king, you think you have a power, and you think that you can rule anything, but actually you are entitled to do so because God gave you this power. In a sense that you need to be humble. There is a true God, as Daniel said, that who could interpret your dream and who actually gave this dream to you. And you need to understand that God. Yeah, I think that's a message, you know, here. Okay, so next question. So in this chapter, Ellen G. White quoted Acts 17, 24, 27, in which Paul evangelized the Greeks in Athens. What's the similarities between these two incidents, and why did E.G. White quote this specific Bible section? So if we look at the Acts, let's open the Bible, Acts 17. Let's see. So this is the time, this is a moment that basically Paul was second mission trip to the Turkey and Greece, together with Timothy and Silas, and Mark, author of the Acts, traveling. And they evangelized to the Galatia, and then went up to that coastal area of the Turkey, and then went across the channel to Macedonia and evangelized to Philippi and Thessalonica, and then came down to Athens. And actually, because of the persecution, the disciples took the Paul by ship to Athens by himself. And Timothy and Silas were left behind, and they caught up later. But so this time that Paul just by himself in Athens, and that's chapter 17 from verse 16. And it's interesting. It says here, while Paul was waiting for them in Athens, he was greatly distressed to see that the city was full of idols. So he reasoned in the synagogue with both Jews and God-fearing Greeks, as well as in the marketplace day by day with those who happened to be there. A group of Epicurean and Stoic philosophers began to debate with him. So basically, Paul is here talking about God to Greeks. Now that, remember that, do you know that philosophers like Plato or Socrates, Aristotle, have you ever heard of them? They are all out from Athens. So at that time, that Athens was one of the Greek city and a part of that province of Achaia under Roman ruling. Yet used to be a polis, you know, that the city independent together with Sparta. And they developed that basically lots of it was a center of the knowledge and wisdom in Roman Empire at the time of the Jesus, by the way, at the time of Jesus. So there are many philosophers there. Even the Bible mentioned that the Epicureans and the Stoic philosophers. So they are there and debating all kind of things in a public place. There was a hill called Areopagus, which is mentioned in verse 22. Later, that Paul invited to speak in Areopagus. Areopagus means that Mars hill, the hill of the battle god Mars. And you remember that there was a church in Bellevue, Mars Hill Church. The name came from here. So that kind of environment, and he was preaching about true God to them. Now that the question is, why the E.G. White quoted this that paragraph and this passage in this context? What do you think?
Can you read the Acts? Is that Acts 17, 24 to 27?
Yeah. So it says, I read some that so he reasoned in the synagogue with both Jews and God-fearing Greeks, as well as in the marketplace day by day with those who happened to be there. A group of Epicurean and Stoic philosophers began to debate with him. Some of them asked, "What is this babbler trying to say?" Others remarked, "He seems to be advocating foreign gods." They said this because Paul was preaching the good news about Jesus and the resurrection. Then they took him and brought him to a meeting of the Areopagus, where they said to him, "May we know what this new teaching is that you are presenting? You are bringing some strange ideas to our ears, and we would like to know what they mean." All the Athenians and foreigners who lived there spent their time doing nothing but talking about and listening to the latest ideas. So Paul then stood up in the meeting of the Areopagus and said, "People of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious. For as I walked around and looked carefully at your objects of worship, I even found an altar with this inscription, to an unknown God. So you are ignorant of the very thing you worship. And this is what I'm going to proclaim to you. The God who made the world and everything in it is a Lord of heaven and earth and does not live in temples built by human hands. And he is not served by human hands as if he needed anything. Rather, he himself gives everyone life and breath and everything else. From one man, he made all the nations that they should inhabit the whole earth, and he marked out their appointed times in history and the boundaries of their lands. God did this so that they would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from any one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being. As some of your own poets have said, we are his offspring. So that the part that Ellen G. White quoted, this part. So from one man he made all the nations that they should inhabit the whole earth, and he marked out their appointed times and in history and the boundaries of their lands. God did this so that they would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from any of us. What do you think?
Well, it's kind of saying the same thing that his dream, the king's dream is that God is the true kingdom, and the rest are just inferior, or what God allows to be.
Right. Now that how similar do you think? Do you see any similarities, situations between that Daniel and three others with Nebuchadnezzar and this situation?
I think for one,
Mhm.
I guess the similarity is the one is where there's something that's unknown. There's an unknown factor. You know, the king Nebuchadnezzar didn't know his dream, didn't know the meaning of it. And here in the Athens, all those philosophers, the wise, so-called wise men, you know, the most learned men of that time, did not know who true God was.
Right.
And so that unknown. And Paul is trying to tell them that, you know, you have so many gods, and there's even a God who's called unknown God, literally unknown. And yet there is God that is so near to all of us, that who is actually sovereign, that he is the one who, you know, has control over how the whole entire world is running right now, you know?
Right.
And it must have been a pretty intriguing idea to those philosophers, because first of all, you know, hearing about a man or king or whoever or God who was resurrected. I mean, the fact that someone died and was resurrected is the whole new idea, right? That's something new for them. So and then a God who is so close, who's so near to the humans, and that he actually has, you know, direct control over what happens in everyone's lives. I you know, I mean, during that time and even now, their gods were they're just objects, right? Most of the gods, they were just objects that were placed in temples or wherever else, and there never was any kind of personal relationship or personal contact, or none of that existed in that time.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so as Stalin said, that I think that at the time of Nebuchadnezzar, that all the wise men and also the king didn't know true God, but they are pretty intellectual, probably the most advanced city at that time in many ways, right? Same thing in Athens. This is a center of the intellectual intellect. Center of basically this is a university city in the entire Roman Empire. So that kind of place, but they didn't know God. Even that there was an altar dedicated to unknown God. That means that the reason why they did this, Greeks, they tried to make sure that all the gods were honored. So they are afraid that there might be gods we miss. So they put the altars for the God which we don't know. So basically, Paul was telling them that I'll tell you the true God, which you don't know. So that's what he's doing now. How similar Daniel and Paul do you think?
Well, I was just looking at the Acts 17 again, and
Mhm.
verse 29 says, therefore, since we are God's offspring, we should not think that the divine being is like gold or silver or stone, an image made by human design and skill. And so there is a similarity there in that, you know,
Right.
we often, at that time, they were making images, and
Right.
the images are not.
Yeah. That's very true too. And actually, funny thing is that the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had was made of those metals, right?
Right.
Top
Exactly.
is gold, second is silver, next is bronze or brass, and then the iron and clay. And
Right.
funny thing is that so it's just a statue of made by human hands. And you know, if we skip the next chapters, basically Nebuchadnezzar after this he made his own statue with entirely gold, so that his empire hopefully lasts forever. So that's a kind of mindset of human mindset, I guess, but yeah, thank you for Sally saying that. Yeah. So those things are not representing God or replacement of God. That's very true. So I think that, interesting thing is that Daniel was given that enlightenment and wisdom by God, right? By praying. Yeah, he was a loyal, I think, believer and a loyal follower of God. And how about Paul?
Same for him.
Yeah, same for him. And also, he got the enlightenment through his experience with God, right? That Jesus appeared when he was walking to Damascus on the way, and he was knocked out by light and heard a voice, Jesus talking to him. And through that, enlightenment, he understood who God is, true God is. So in a sense that Paul and Daniel are playing the same role, that telling that God's truth to the people. Yeah. And the knowledge came from God, of course. Okay, so let's see. We still have time, but
I was just thinking that for both men and all the other people who had to stand and testify for God. I mean, we know that when we studied about the different prophets, how difficult their life was, right? I mean, they were probably hated, and they knew that their life was, I mean, they were mocked, for saying things that are very strange to those people, right? It's completely different way of thinking about God. And I'm sure many times, I mean, their life was in danger, yet they continue to speak. And I don't know, you have, I mean, I can just imagine that, like, you have to have such a connection with God, right, to be able to really put your own safety, your own comfort, your life aside, and to be able to be the prophet and be speaking out in that way. Is certainly, God chose these people, but at the same time, I mean, they had to continue to choose to serve God, right? So that faith is just, it's amazing.
Sure.
I mean, we are not put in that kind of situations in our lives right now, but who knows? Maybe we may be in such situations as well someday. Yeah. And it's like, I guess just prayer is that we will be ready to be able to do that.
Yeah, hope we are ready when that time comes. Michael, do you have any comments?
No, not really. Nothing additional to add. I mean,
okay. Okay. One thing that I saw interesting is that so this part is basically Paul and also that Daniel's dream linked in a way that so description is the God assigned that time and a place to the human beings. right? So that the Paul's comment is, so that they will seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from any one of us. So even that to Nebuchadnezzar, God was right there. If he willing to seek, God answered. So that's why, in a sense, that the God provided different time, different place, different king in each era. That sounds like it, right? And but at the end, large rock cut off by not human hands, roll down and hit everything, crushed, and then that covers the entire world. So basically, God is eventually under control. Now, when we look at the current world right now we are living, that that idea is hard to believe in that sense. It's in a sense that it's hard to see that God's hands there, because of so chaotic. Yet, I think the Bible message is saying that even though, because I think about the time of the Nebuchadnezzar, what happened to Israel, Northern Kingdom, Southern Kingdom, Egypt, even those regions, or that Aram, that Syria, wars all the time, invaded each other all the time, killing each other, and so many people lost lives. Jerusalem was conquered, Babylonia burned down, and many Jews died, right? Yeah, God gave this dream to Nebuchadnezzar. We have challenges, but at the end, all the things will be solved by God's hands. So that's a kind of message I think I see here. So sometimes we are kind of overwhelmed at what's happening around us and in the world. And I think that I don't know you guys, but I'm kind of depressed because every day when I open the newspaper or I read the news, I don't see that happy news, especially that this year. Why that Russians, Ukrainians, who are brothers, needs to kill each other and hate each other? I mean, that's pretty sad situation. But I think that according to Bible, yet still God has control, and if you seek Him, He's there. So,
I mean, okay, so reading this chapter, it made it sound like, and even the Bible verses, it made it sound like God was the one who were appointing those leaders, the kings. And if we bring that forward, and maybe even now, I don't think that's true. I mean, I don't believe that God's actually appointing those kings and presidents, and I don't think so, because that if that's true, that there goes your free will. But right. I think what this is saying is teaching us that even midst of all those, the worldly events and histories and all that, our life, that God is there even in all that mess, in that He works through them, He works within them and us to be able to bring about His plan. Yeah, I think that's what it means.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that the God's kingdom is actually started in a sense. There was a God's kingdom, but in a sense that Jesus, the death on the cross was actually the starting point. You know, the God's kingdom is already there because it's in our heart too. So yeah. Okay, last question. If you summarize what you learned from today's lesson in a short phrase, what would it be?
Trust in God, have faith.
Huh?
I said trust in God and have faith.
Yeah, trust in God and have faith. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, I agree with Sally. I think that's what it is. I think having faith and trust in God, no matter what things may look like. And I think we really need to remember that God is in control, right? That God's in control, and that despite everything, he will basically his name will be glorified at the end. I mean, so yeah.
How about you, Michael?
This is definitely not going to be a short phrase, but
okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I can't figure out a tidy way to say it, but you know, kind of something that kind of struck me as you were talking more, Kosuke, was, you know, the Nebuchadnezzar during Babylon, you know, like you said, Athens during with the period of all the philosophers, like you said, it's peak humanity, peak achievement in terms of intellect. And so, I mean, I think to pull a lesson from there is the natural inclination as us humans to just have the hubris of, like, you know, of our own achievements, you know, and to believe that our own achievements, you know, maybe you lose sight of, oh, I'm so great, I don't need God, you know, I don't need that. And so but you know, God reminds us, yet despite of all these amazing achievements and things that we can accomplish as humans, you know, God is still sovereign above all. So yeah, I agree that, you know, faith in all this are a big part of it, but also that not to get lost in our own accomplishments, because we need God, and when we do, and when we can take the blinders off of that, he's right there. Right there.
I'm into that. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, mine is just God is under control, you know, or God, everything is under God's control, you know. So that's my take. So yeah, I think we are still early, but anything else you want to cover today? I exhausted my questions, so. We are good?
That's it for me.
Okay, yeah, all right. Let's finish up then. Okay. Michael, can you pray for closing?
Dear God, thank you so much for the Sabbath day, this opportunity for us to spend some time together and discuss your word and teaching, and for us to bring our own experiences and learn more about you, Lord. I pray, please be with us throughout this day and this coming week as we continue to glorify your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you guys for joining today. And we have worship service 11:15 at the church. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Happy Sabbath.